wormholes, particle physics, extra dimensions. Are the wonders of so-called reality really what they appear to be? Or do we exist in an elaborate hologram? Is our universe the result of random activity or the result of intelligent design? If a creator was involved, can we discover him through our perception of divine order? This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Into the Multiverse. We have one of your favorite guests, one of our favorite guests. But first, before we get to him, in studio with us as always, my lovely, beautiful wife, Christina Peck. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing, honey?
I am doing fantastic. And with us, fan favorite, Timothy Alberino. Tim, once again, how are you doing?
Great to be in the multiverse.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. These are always my favorite episodes. I think we've done so many of these now, and we're outside of the show, we're friends anyway. So these episodes are always really easy. Something we've never talked about. I've interviewed you at least a dozen times, not just on this show, but on other shows as well. We've never really talked much about your past. And this was actually Tim's idea to talk about this for this episode, his dark, torturous Amazonian past. Where do you want to begin?
Well, I was born.
We would hope. We would hope that happened. Were you actually born in South America? Or?
No. I was born outside of Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up in Cleveland. I grew up in Brook Park, actually, a suburb of Cleveland. And, well, when I was, basically the worst experience of my life was high school.
Yeah, I can relate.
It's public school in general, but especially high school. So I'll skip to high school. In high school, you talk about a torturous experience. For me, it was a torturous experience.
Oh, really?
I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
It was just so supercilious and superficial, and I wasn't getting anything out of high school. And
was it like an intellectual thing, or were you getting picked on? Or?
No, nothing like that.
Oh, okay.
No, I was. I simply began to opt out of class.
Yeah.
And so it was just getting extremely boring to the point where it was drudgery. I just couldn't take it anymore. So as it happened. And I wasn't picked on or anything like that. The contrary. So at some point, I believe in the beginning, the first month of my senior year, it happened that some of my teachers were complaining about me because, and this isn't by any means an endorsement of this practice, but they would. I always operated under the philosophy that school should stay in school.
Yeah.
So I was very much against the idea of homework.
Right.
In fact, I was so opposed to it that I boycotted it altogether.
Okay.
So they would issue the homework sheet, mathematics or whatever, and I'd sign my name on it and pass it right back in. I just simply wouldn't bring it home. I hated school so much, I refused to bring it home with me. It was the last thing I wanted to do. So I wasn't a rebellious student. I was actually a very good student in that I was very quiet, and I did my work and I passed the grades. And apart from boycotting homework, I was a quiet student. And the reason why I say all of this is because it happened that one of my teachers or two of my teachers made some complaints about me. They didn't like me personally. It was known that I was a Christian. It wasn't picked on or anything like that, but my teachers were aware of it, and they had a liberal bent, many of them, and they just didn't like me. And so I was sent to the counselor's office, and I was informed that the teachers didn't like me.
They actually told it to you like that?
Yeah.
Like, the teachers don't like you.
Yeah. And,
Wow.
And I got it. The counselor flipped out on me. And she just was shouting, and I can't even remember exactly why. I was respectful. I wasn't offending her in any way, or at least intentionally. I was trying to figure out what it was that these teachers, why they had such a problem with me. And the reason why I say all of this is because I ended up getting kicked out / dropped out of high school. And that was a catalyst for the things that would come afterwards. So I dropped out of my senior, kicked out / dropped out of my senior year, right in the beginning of it.
Oh, wow.
Right in the beginning of the year, which was glorious. So I left, and I ended up attempting, instead of I always tell people I didn't go to college, I moved to the Amazon.
Yeah.
Which is true. But before I went to the Amazon, after I dropped out of high school, I attempted to go to Ireland.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It had always been a desire of mine to go to Ireland. Yeah. I was maybe 18, 17.
That's where my ancestors are from.
Yeah, mine too. Some of them.
I have some from Ireland too. I was about 18, maybe 17. I don't remember however old I was in the beginning of that senior year. And so I tried to go to Ireland, and I say try because I got deported from England.
Really?
In the attempt.
So you decided, did you have money saved up? You decided that you were going to try to go to Ireland?
Yeah, I had some money saved up. I had worked a little while. I dropped out of school. And
were you trying to move to Ireland? Like, what did you want to do in Ireland?
No, I had a friend that lived in Ireland, and, and I was going to go up to Inverness, Scotland, and walk the, I can't remember the name of it, a particular trail from Inverness to the sea, and then take the boat over to Ireland, and we had this whole thing planned out. But
so you made it to Europe.
I made it,
England.
I made it to Gatwick, England, and I flew into Gatwick, England, with a friend of mine who's now my production assistant, Carlos.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so we flew into Gatwick, England, and we were gonna get out, walk out of the airport, and get on a train and go up to Inverness, Scotland, sort of make our way up there. Mm-hmm. But instead, we got apprehended by customs. I'm sorry, immigration. Mm-hmm. Immigration apprehends us, puts us in this room for 6 hours, and then interviews us, and independently. And when I was interviewed, it was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever endured, because I won't go into the details, but basically I was insulted as being a Yankee.
Oh,
I've never been called a Yankee. Basically, I was called a Yankee, told that they didn't like Yankees, and very bizarre situation.
They were probably whiter than you.
It was a woman, yeah, and it was an immigration's officer, and she called me Yankee several times, and some other things, and then deported us the next day.
No real reason.
No reason.
Just purely.
Basically, a bias against the Yankees.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, okay.
So, whatever that means. And so it's sort of like one thing leading to another, and I'm skipping out a bunch of other critical things. But eventually, I get deported the next day, and this was an ardent desire of mine to go to Scotland and do this hike, this trail, and then go to Ireland. That's what I really wanted to do. I didn't know what else I wanted to do, but I definitely wanted to do that. And being deported from England and losing all that money and time and everything, and was pretty depressing.
No, I bet.
Oh yeah.
I was just kind of like a zombie on the way back on the flight. I get back home, and I was in a very depressed state for a while. It just so happened that there was a man. My father was an evangelical. Non-denominational pastor. I should say a pastor of an evangelical non-denominational church. And there was a man that was preaching in the church at that time, whose name was Alfonso Felix. And Alfonso was a Mexican who happened to be a missionary in Peru, in Tarapoto, in the Amazon basin of Peru.
Okay.
And I was encouraged by my mother-in-law to talk to Alfonso about going to Peru with him.
Oh, okay.
Now understand, if I had not been deported from England,
right,
I would have never met Alfonso at that precise period of time.
Yeah.
Long story short, I ended up going to Peru with him because I couldn't make it to Ireland, so I went to Peru instead. And after being in Peru for a month, I decided that when I came back to the States, I decided that I was just going to leave the United States. I was very disillusioned with a lot of things at that time, with
Sure.
society in general.
Yeah.
With there's a lot of things going on. Basically, I was driven by a desire to have an encounter with God. That was my desire.
Oh, okay.
And I decided I'm going to move to the Amazon, and I'm going to start there. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but so at one time, I moved to the Amazon. I moved to the Amazon basin in Tarapoto, the city of Tarapoto, in Peru, and I just began to live there. And I learned Spanish. Had a couple of pet monkeys, and lived by myself, and became immersed in the culture, Peruvian culture, and I took to it very well, unlike high school.
Right.
And so, long story short, I decided that I wanted to go into the jungle, deep into the jungle, and spend a good amount of time in the Amazon. I lived in the Amazon basin in a city, but I wanted to go live in the deep jungle, and so I did that.
Oh, wow.
And
For how long?
it was off and on, but it was for extended periods of time, months at a time.
Wow.
And
So by then, were you there long enough where you were prepared for all the dangers, or were you still kind of new to it and just thought, well, I'll be fine? And
I took to Peruvian culture very quickly.
okay.
And
I mean, the jungle—that's a dangerous place, isn't it?
yeah, but I adapted very quickly to the jungle.
Wow.
I couldn't adapt in suburban society in Brook Park, Ohio, but I adapted extremely quickly in Peru, in the
Wow.
Peruvian culture. And I live with lumberjacks and hunters and stuff like that in the jungle. And it was a very powerful experience in my life because, and I hate to tease you like this, but but I had an encounter in the jungle that changed my life.
Wow.
Wow.
Now, I do remember the very first time I interviewed you. It was when I was hosting the Sharpening Report. That was a show I created years ago. My good friend Sam Johnston is hosting it now. He's doing a phenomenal job, and he's growing it further than I could. But the very first time, we didn't even know each other yet. We actually got connected, I think, through Sheila Zielinski. And you briefly mentioned a little bit about the Amazon story, and then you got up to that part and you stopped and wouldn't tell me any more. Are you going to tell me more this time?
No.
Oh, come on, Tim.
No.
It's been years. We're friends.
No,
No. I mean, if it's something sacred between you and God, obviously,
well, it's not that it's sacred
or deeply personal.
I'm just not sure that it would be beneficial to other people.
Okay.
But suffice it to say, I had a very intense experience in the jungle. I've never taken drugs in my life. And up to that point, I didn't drink any beer or anything like that, and any kind of alcohol. I was not a beer drinker or anything like that. I'm not making a statement about that. I'm just saying that just so people know. When I say I had an experience, it wasn't
influenced.
It wasn't
by
ayahuasca.
Right.
It wasn't because I drank a bunch of tequila. I happened to be staying with a group of lumberjacks at the time, working with a group of lumberjacks, and I, at some point in time, would like to write a book about it, have written a book about it, but would like to publish a book about it. But what's important is that I would have never been in Peru if I hadn't got deported from England. I would have never got deported from England if I hadn't got kicked out of high school.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do is trace this. So I get kicked out of high school, dropped out, kicked out, get deported from England. I end up in Peru, have this encounter in the jungle, end up living in Peru for an extended period of time. I lived there for 10 years, doing all kinds of stuff, some ministry type stuff, some business type stuff in Peru. I actually went back to Cleveland, Ohio, got married to a girl that was part of our church since I was very small. She moved back to Peru with me. We lived there. We had 2 of our kids, our Peruvian citizens, were born there.
Oh, wow.
And while I was in Peru, I started to hear some very interesting stories concerning giants.
Oh, wow.
And concerning other things. And there's a lot of supernaturalism that you're exposed to sort of in a very casual setting in third world countries. At least I can speak for Peru.
And you even dealt with some of this personally.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Well, before we get to that, I'm going to tease the audience and make you sit through a commercial first. But we're going to get right back to that as soon as we come back. Derek Gilbert and I wrote a book called The Day the Earth Stands Still. We want to tell you about that, how you can get a hold of it, and this amazing package that Tom Horn has put together with another book of mine, Unraveling the Multiverse, Michael Heiser's books, a DVD set, an audio CD, or not an audio MP3 set, excuse me, and a bunch of other things. So stay tuned. We'll come back right after this.
3 very mysterious shiny lights have police and residents puzzled.
This pilot who flew Barack Obama says UFOs are real, and he's seen one firsthand.
The triangular-shaped flashing object appears to be floating above the capital city.
So this large disc,
oh yeah,
massive, it was following you.
It was pacing us. Here's this giant red ball just above the clouds.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it was.
4 different species, at least, had been visiting this planet for thousands of years.
For the first time in history, the disturbing truth behind the push for official disclosure of extraterrestrial intelligence and UFOs has been uncovered. For years, religious and secular researchers have tried to determine how the world would react to a genuine extraterrestrial reality. But what if their conclusions are wrong? Humankind has defined them as devilish creatures. Yet something even more diabolical is occurring. What if there's a difference between ancient demonic phenomena and the question of extraterrestrial life? It was hinted at in the WikiLeaks.
People really want to know what the government knows.
I have said I want to open the files as much as we can.
A reality that lurks in the shadows that will soon come to light. A truth so shocking, it threatens the destiny of every soul on planet Earth. You must ask yourself, why now suddenly is seeking to answer the question of UFOs life-threatening?
This is another investigator who is getting very close to information on official disclosure that's now been found dead.
I've talked to a lot of pilots here, and they've all admitted that they've seen UFOs, but they kind of keep quiet about it.
The government discounts every single report that ever seems to come out, every UFO report.
I'm about the only person willing to get in front of a camera and talk about the UFOs that were flying overhead.
Promises of earth-shattering news are being quietly whispered by scientists and government insiders. Is something about to happen that was prophesied in the Holy Bible? This November, internationally acclaimed best-selling authors Josh Peck and Derek P. Gilbert peel back the lid on an astonishing cover-up and expose on a most insidious deception. In The Day the Earth Stands Still, unmasking the old gods behind ETs, UFOs, and the official disclosure movement. Coming November 2017.
The holidays are rapidly approaching, and now's your chance to save big on the largest Skywatch TV giveaway of the year. We're proud to announce the Day the Earth Stands Still Ultimate Collection. When you purchase The Day the Earth Stands Still from Skywatch TV, you'll also receive Josh Peck's most significant work in the new compilation book, Unraveling the Multiverse. Also back in print through Defender Publishing for the first time ever, Dr. Michael Heiser's breakthrough books, The Facade and The Portent. But we're just getting started. You'll also receive the brand new, top secret 5-volume DVD collection, Project Stargate. This unprecedented series of never-before-released confidential interviews features 12 of the world's leading authorities on UFOs, so-called aliens, gods, and the coming day of contact. You'll be amazed as we go behind the scenes to ask experts what they really believe is coming. Watch as men with security clearances like Dr. Chuck Missler share for the first time what they know. Then take notes as Dr. Michael Heiser, the late Chris Putnam, Russ Dizdar, Joe Jordan, L.A. Marzulli, Daryl Sims, Gary Stearman, and others weigh in on what will soon cause the world to stand still in awe. And yet, we're still not finished. You'll also receive Dr. Thomas Horn's presentation, The Secret Vatican and Alien Antichrist Connection on DVD, the digitally re-released legendary 20-hour audio series, Official Disclosure, the DVD presentation, Quantum Physics in Prophecy, and 2 free brand new gift books to add to your library or to give away as gifts this holiday season. Sold separately, this colossal special offer holds a retail value of over $300, but it's yours now for a very limited time at only $39.99 plus shipping and handling. So don't delay. This avalanche of holiday gifts is perfect for the serious researcher in your life, but is only available while supplies last. So take advantage of this, the largest Skywatch TV giveaway of 2017, while you can when you purchase The Day the Earth Stands Still Ultimate Collection, now at the Skywatch TV store. Order online or call 1-844-750-4985.
Welcome back to Into the Multiverse. I should also mention that a little bit later, we're going to answer some viewer questions. Now, if you're watching the normal half an hour, 28-30 cut of this program, there is an extended feature at youtube.com/intothe-multiverse. Make sure to go there. You can view this entire interview. It's a lot longer. We do these from time to time, almost always when Tim is here. So make sure you check that out, subscribe, click the little bell so you get notifications telling you when we upload new content. Okay, so to jump right back in, supernatural experiences in the jungle.
Well, while I was living with my family in Peru, in the city of Tarapoto again, we did some, as I said, some ministry-oriented stuff, and we had some very interesting encounters with shamans. Not intentionally. There's just
they're in the culture. They're there.
They're there, and it was conflict initiated by them, not by us.
Oh, okay.
We went through some very bizarre things. For example, there was a period of time, and this is kind of difficult to describe. There's a very famous place in Tarapoto, Peru. People can look this up on Google. It's called, I believe it's still called to this day, Takiwasi.
Okay.
And Takiwasi is a drug rehab center that was started by a Frenchman living in the Amazon basin. And the idea was to use shamanism and ayahuasca to treat people who are addicted to other kinds of narcotics. Heroin, people were addicted to heroin, people were addicted to coke, meth, all kinds of stuff. And but they used shamanism to do it. And they were associated with very, very popular, well-known shamans that were very effective at what they did. And right next to Takiwasi was a facility called the Achual.
Okay.
And the Achual was what's the word I'm looking for? Hostel. You know what I mean? It wasn't a hotel or a motel. It was more like a hostel.
Yeah.
It was very rustic. It had it's very difficult to explain. Very rustic facility with some bedrooms and stuff. And this was a place that was frequented by the kind of people that we were ministering to. And so we rented the whole thing out. And long story short, we began to come into conflict with the Society of Shamans. That was their stronghold in that city. That's where they did their conferences and so forth in the jungle. And because we were right on the outskirts of the end of the town, so if you went in a particular direction from where we were living, it was just jungle. And so they had a retreat out there where they would do, like I said, conferences and so forth. And one particular day, I don't remember exactly when it was, but there was a time period in which I began to discover. One day I walked into the Achual, the place we were renting, and I went up to our room, and there was a big black tarantula on the door, which it's the jungle. So
that's why I could never live there.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I didn't think anything of it.
Definitely afraid of those things.
You know, so I thought that's interesting. It was like right in the middle of the door.
Ugh.
Like it was put there. That's what somebody put it there. I thought, that's kind of strange, but you know, there's tarantulas everywhere. But I went inside the room, And that night, I had my firstborn son. He was a baby at the time, laying on the bed. And I looked over at him, and there was a what's called an isula, which is called in English a bullet ant.
Oh no!
That big.
Second reason I could never live there.
Yeah, a bullet ant crawling on his face.
Now, aren't those the ones that it's the most painful bite of like anything?
Yes, it
it
is.
would kill a baby if it.
Yes.
Oh,
It stings.
oh my gosh.
Yep.
And the isula was crawling on his face and his neck. And I looked over, and I could see there was more than one in the room. This was the same day I found the tarantula on the door. Again, not real uncommon. It's much more uncommon to find isulas in your house than a tarantula on your door. So anyway, I very carefully flicked it off of my son's face. If it would have stung him in the neck, he would have died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, this is interesting. Black tarantulas on the door, isulas in my bedroom. Very easily could kill a child, kill a dog if it stung a dog. So the next morning, my wife would get up, and there was an outdoor basin, one faucet, and she would wash clothes in the morning. It was a concrete basin. So the next morning, I believe it was the next morning, my wife gets up to go wash clothes at the basin. And the basin is a cement basin. It comes out like this from a cement wall. The basin comes out like a rectangle. And on the wall is a faucet. Nothing's connecting to that faucet on the wall. The plumbing's behind the concrete. So faucet. She goes to turn the faucet on to wash clothes, but she happens to look up before she reaches over. There is a snake coiled around the faucet in a striking position.
Number 3, why I could never.
On the
Oh my
faucet.
gosh.
On the faucet. Now,
my
I assume it was poisonous.
there's two things that you need to understand about that. First of all, it was the morning. Snakes move to the warmth in the morning. There was no hot water in that faucet, only cold. So there was no reason why a snake would be wrapped around a cold faucet in the shade in the morning.
Yeah.
Snakes are out bathing in the sun in the morning because they're cold-blooded. They have to warm up.
Yeah.
Second, it had to be put there.
Yeah.
It was a flat cement wall with a stone basin, with a cement basin coming out of it. Somebody had to have placed that snake on the faucet. And it was a poisonous snake. And it wasn't just slithering around, it was in a strike position.
Oh my gosh.
And my wife happened to look up when she went to turn the faucet on, she screamed. And at the time I had a guy working for me that was sort of the groundskeeper. He came over with a machete, and he knew about the tarantula on my door, and he knew about the isula, I told him. And he saw the snake, that it was wrapped around the faucet, and chopped its head off with a machete. And he came to me and he said, Tim, Peruvian guy, he said, he pulled me aside and he said, this is witchcraft.
Wow.
He said, this is shamanism. He said, they're trying to hurt you. He said, this isn't normal. This is shamanism. And so I realized that, this was intentional. I mean, the tarantula, nah. The isula, nah. A snake coiled around in the morning, is coiled around a cold pipe on a cement wall in a striking position, waiting for my wife's hand.
Especially all 3 of those together.
Yeah. So, and all 3 of those things are poisonous.
Yeah.
So, well, the tarantula is it's noxious, but it's not necessarily very dangerous to adults. It is to babies.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I had a baby. Obviously, we once I realized that this was indeed shamanism, we prayed against it, and it stopped happening. However, we would do prayer meetings in this facility, the Atral, mind you, right next to Takiwasi. Takiwasi, you would, and there was a hedge, a tall hedge around Takiwasi. So these tall trees, and every now and again, you would hear these blood-curdling screams coming from Takiwasi, and all kinds of demonic-sounding things going on over there, because they used shamanism to free people of addiction. And So it's all kinds of weird things, demon possession and so forth, which we saw some of over in that area. And one evening, we used to do prayer meetings on, I believe it was Thursday evenings, and a man came to my gate. We had a gate at this place. He came to the gate. He wanted to talk to me, and he said, "Can I come in and talk to you for a few minutes?" He said, "I'm one of the shamans from Takiwasi." He was very cordial, and I opened the gate, and he came in, and we sat down and talked. Very cordial. He said, "Neighbor, can you please do me a favor?" I said, "Sure, what do you need?" He said, "We have a problem. Here's our problem. You know we do our ceremonial stuff over here, our shamanism, blah, 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 Takiwasi." I said, yeah, I know that. He said, "And we know that you guys do prayer meetings, right? You're evangelicals," or whatever he said, and you conduct prayer meetings." I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, here's the problem. When you guys pray, we can't operate."
Of course not.
That's literally what he said.
Wow.
He said, "When you pray, we can't work."
How is that not a wake-up call for him? That there's something more powerful than
and he was very cordial.
Yeah.
He said, "It's a problem for us because we can't operate." I said, "What do you mean you can't operate?" He said, our shamanism doesn't work." And he said, "Can you please change the days?" He said, "We don't care that you pray. Can you just please change your prayer meetings to a different day?" And I said no.
Yeah.
But not because I wanted to be confrontational with the man, just because it was difficult getting everybody together as it was. I wasn't going to change the date because they couldn't.
And it'd be awkward for a Christian to change a prayer meeting date to, suit the needs of a shaman.
I wasn't too inclined to change the date of our prayer meeting so that they could fill people with demons more effectively.
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't they just change the date of their meetings?
And that is precisely what they would do. And they knew it because they would invite, and I can quickly explain this. They use, I'll try to quickly explain this. They use ayahuasca.
Okay.
Ayahuasca comes from a vine, and it's a hallucinogenic. So when you take it, they use it for their spirit trips or whatever. The natives have done so for a very long time in the Amazon. It's like the peyote or whatever else the Native Americans used here and in Mexico. And so they use ayahuasca to open a person up. That's the purpose of ayahuasca, is to open you, is to make you available. And what they do, and they describe this to me, not that particular guy, but somebody else described this to me, a different shaman.
Right.
That you sit in this group, you sit in a circle, and there's a couple of shamans performing the ceremony. And they take, you've probably seen this on Discovery Channel or whatever, they blow the cigarette smoke on you, and they do all kinds of things, and they got their feathers and everything. And you're sitting in a circle, and you take ayahuasca. It's not just ayahuasca, it's a mixture of different things. And so everybody in the circle drinks ayahuasca. Again, I've never done it. And I wouldn't do it. They drink ayahuasca, and then once everybody is either A, puking their brains out, or B, in the trance state that ayahuasca puts you in, then the shaman summons the spirits from the jungle to come and invites the spirits to come. That's what the shaman does. So he uses the ayahuasca to make them available. Maybe make them fit extensions, as Tom might say.
Right, yeah.
And then he summons the entities, and a shaman friend of mine, an associate, not an associate, not a friend, what am I looking for? An acquaintance of mine, named Herbert, explained this to me, that what happens is, and he has seen this himself, and he performed the ceremonies and has been trained by some of the top shamans in the Amazon. You've got your public sort of tourist shamans, and then you've got your real deal shamans.
Yeah.
And he was trained by the real guys, and he said, what happens is this: if you know how to, if you're aware of what's going on. If you're a shaman taking ayahuasca or whatever, you can see what's happening. And he explained it to me. Shaman summons the entities. The entities come to the middle of the circle, different kinds. And they go around. He explained this to me. This guy is just telling me what happens when they take ayahuasca. and of course they see the spirits as benevolent or benign at the very least. And the spirits go, and he said he's watched this happen on numerous occasions. The entities would come, and they go and they look into each face around the circle. And they identify something that they find adequate in the person, something that they're attracted to, and they go boom into the person. And so the shamans know this. The people don't. They think they're having some trippy,
experience.
Vision quest experience, when in reality it's very simple. The shamans use ayahuasca to make you available to the entities that would like to either have influence in your life or enter into you.
Wow.
And that's precisely what happens. So the shamans, the entities, will give you the power, will help you overcome your addiction to a drug. But there's a trade-off.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is not coming just from some Christian's perspective. This is coming from the shaman telling me what happens during ayahuasca, what the point of it is. They summon the spirits from the jungle. And let me tell you something. For one reason or another, there are a lot of nasty things inhabiting the jungle. And when I say things, I mean spiritual things.
Really?
I don't know why, but I can just tell you that it's true.
Wow.
For some reason. And they summon these things.
Wow.
That's what ayahuasca's, it opens. And I think that's what many drugs do. It makes you available.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's something about the human psyche where we have a defense against things, but some of these drugs lower the drawbridge and render you defenseless and make you available for certain things, even demon possession.
I agree. Yep.
So anyways, that's what we were experiencing. To make a long story short there, something happened, a very, very bizarre situation unfolded. And the end result of the situation was a bunch of shamans and townspeople at my gates with guns and machetes demanding that we leave.
Oh, wow.
And wanted to hang from the bridge 2 of the young people that were in our compound.
Oh, geez.
And they had previously hung somebody from the bridge a couple years earlier.
Wow.
So they're called they're like the citizen police type force, kind of common in South America. So anyway, it was during that time that I started to explore I guess you can call it the cryptozoological type content, giants, other kinds of entities. The old hunters, for example, were telling me very interesting stories. One friend of mine told me that he went hunting deep in the jungle one time, and he would go walk days into the jungle, and he came across a tribe of giants, of extremely tall people, and they were very furtive, and they were kind of trying to stay away from him and try and not be seen. And so these are the kind of stories that I would hear, mainly from the hunters.
Right.
And I would wonder, either A, they're BSing me, or B, they're telling me the truth, at least as they experienced it. So I started to investigate these things, and of course, who do I find? Steve Quayle.
Oh, wow. So that's how you two met.
That's how I found Steve Quayle in Peru, investigating these things because of what I was hearing from the hunters. Because of what I was... In fact, somebody, I forget who told me, and one of the elderly people told me that they knew, in fact, that there was still a tribe of giants living in a cave in the jungle.
So he was in your area investigating something, and then
No, I went on the internet and started to look up information concerning giants.
Oh, okay.
And I found Steve Quayle's work, and of course I read Genesis 6 Giants, and ended up moving back to the States.
Gotcha.
Because my business failed in Peru. So it was another one of those situational occurrences where you're forced you're forced to make a particular choice that leads you,
because all the other doors close.
Exactly. So it leads you to an inevitable conclusion.
Right.
And so just like dropping out of high school, getting kicked out of high school, led me to trying to get to Ireland, which got me deported from England, which got me interested in going to Peru, which led to this amazing experience I had in the jungle, terrifying experience I had in the jungle, which led to me coming back to do missionary type work / business stuff in Peru, which ultimately led me to Steve Quayle, which led me back to Cleveland, Ohio, where I was then very, very, at that point, I started in Peru, but very, very engaged in research at that point. Just really going through a very accelerated process of awakening to a lot of information regarding all kinds of things, very, very heavily embedded into research concerning aliens, UFOs, and abductions.
Yeah.
Very much so. Along with everything else. And reading some of Tom's books and some of the other guys out there, Lee Marsuli and so forth. And then that sort of led to me and Steve getting in contact, because now, guess what? I speak Spanish, and Steve needed some Spanish translation done.
Oh, hey, there you go.
And so suddenly the door opens for me. Long story short, I moved to Bozeman. However, on the way to Bozeman, I packed everything I had up in my car. On my car, I was driving this little, I had lost all my money in Peru and came back, had to start from scratch in Cleveland, Ohio. And I wasn't very happy about it. But I packed up all of our possessions on this car. It was like the Grinch that stole Christmas, how he sleighs all packed up with all the trees. That's like what my car looked like. And I drove this car. My intention was to drive from Cleveland, Ohio to Bozeman, Montana.
This was in the winter,
It was in the
wasn't it?
winter. And I thought, okay, that's all right. I'll drive carefully. I got to the Michigan. What's right above Michigan? What's the
Canada.
border there? No, not Michigan. Below.
Ohio,
It's like,
Illinois,
Illinois,
Wisconsin.
Whatever board. I can't remember if it was Wisconsin, Michigan. I don't remember. Somewhere in there. I crossed the border.
Somewhere where hell literally freezes over.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it was fine. The weather was fine. I get across the border into whatever state it was. I don't remember. Wisconsin, Minnesota, something. And suddenly, out of nowhere, just this, it wasn't even a snowstorm, it was an ice storm.
Yeah, that happens.
And high winds and ice and it was just out of nowhere. And I'm driving only like 30 miles an hour, and I get to this bridge, and you got to remember, I'm on my way to move to Bozeman to work with Steve. My family's still in Cleveland. They were going to come after me. I was going to bring all the stuff out there first. And get us established before I brought them out there. All my worldly possessions are on this car, on top of it, inside of it. And I'm driving across this bridge, and it's a 2-lane bridge, and there's a precipitous fall. It's not a river or anything. It's just like a valley underneath this bridge. And it's only got some guardrails on the side. Actually, there's a guardrail over here. Over here is like a cement barrier, and then you're going over.
Right.
If you get through that. And so I'm driving, trying to be very careful. There's nobody else on the bridge, and all of a sudden I'm sideways.
Oh man.
What happened was the gust of wind just blew my car, and it was pure ice on that bridge.
Yeah.
It was a skating rink. It was an ice skating rink, that bridge.
Yeah.
So the wind blew the car like this, and suddenly I'm sideways. I hit the wall. Engine shuts off, starts to smoke, shuts off. I hit the wall and start to slide backwards now. Sliding backwards. And I'm thinking, I need to get out of this car.
Yeah.
And I look out my driver's window, and there's a semi coming right
Oh,
for me.
no.
And I am like, so I'm going like
gosh.
2-lane highway. I'm coming like this, and the semi's coming like this. And I'm thinking, I got to get out of this car. And I'm trying to get out of the car. The door's jammed. I'm stuck in the car.
Oh, man.
It's 2-lane highway. Semi truck coming at me like this. And I'm thinking, God, please do not let this guy turn his wheel too aggressively, because I knew what was going to happen. If he did, the back of that
The trailer was
Trailer.
going to
Jackknife and
I'm decapitated at that point.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just thinking, I'm thinking I'm dead. So I'm sliding back. Car's totally destroyed. The engine's shut off. The door's jammed. semi-truck is coming right for me. And I'm going like this. So it's like this. I'm going back, semi-truck is coming like this. And I look at the semi-truck driver. No one else is on the road. And he leans over and he's looking, and he just starts to very slowly turn his wheel like this so he doesn't slide, so the back of the trailer doesn't come whipping around the side and decapitate me.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him. He's concentrating, and he's very slowly turning the wheel so that, and I'm not exaggerating, he misses me by that much.
Oh. Wow.
He misses me by that much.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I watch that trailer just go right in front of me. He misses me by a foot.
Oh,
I'm like this.
Gosh.
And he was smart because he didn't want to he didn't want to turn too much, because that I would have been decapitated. The back of that trailer would have, the trailer of that semi would have just swung sideways, and that would have been it.
Wow.
So either I was going to get T-boned or decapitated by the trailer. So he missed me, and I finally was able to kick the door open, and I stepped out of the car after it hit the other wall, just sort of came to stop. And the bridge was a solid piece of ice.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
you could have ice skated on this thing. So that's what happened to me when I tried to move to Bozeman. So long story short, I lost 3/4 of what I owned. It was like my kids' toys and stuff, and it was really depressing.
Wow.
And this is after having to start over in the States from moving from Peru. So long story short, again, a friend of mine helped me get to Bozeman because they had some standby tickets. And we ended up flying in. I went back home, rented a car, went back home, and just ended up flying with the whole family to Bozeman with hardly any possessions at all, almost nothing.
Wow.
And started working with Steve Quayle.
And that led you...
And the rest is history.
Yeah, led you right here into the multiverse.
Exactly.
the pinnacle of your life so far, I'm sure.
Yes, the high point of my entire life.
Yes, as well it should be. You know what? This all reminds me of that Bible verse that it says, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purposes. And I think a lot of Christians kind of get that wrong. They think, well, everything should be good then. No. All things work together for good. Very bad things can work together for good.
That is true.
Me and Wes Fall and Derek Gilbert were just talking about this the other day, and I said, it's kind of like the raw ingredients of a cake. When you separate them out before you make the thing.
It's
you
terrible.
have raw flour, raw eggs, a bunch of stuff you would never salt. On their own, they're terrible.
Yeah.
But you put them together with some time and some heat, and it turns into a beautiful thing. I know we've had stuff like that too.
Sure.
Our whole origin story isn't as intense as that, but there are things in there. I think a lot of people can relate to stuff like that.
Well,
Everybody's,
of course, and like you said, a lot of people will assume that, oh, well, that means everything's going to be hunky-dory because I'm a Christian and God loves me. No, bad things still happen in this world because it is cursed. It's a fallen world. Not everybody is going to be good, quote unquote.
Yeah,
and terrible things happen, but it all works together. I've shared
for good, and for whose good? For God's good, what He deems is good.
Right, exactly.
We're not always going to see it that way. We will in hindsight, eventually. But
now looking back, I see the things that happened in my life, and I've shared my testimony and am writing about it. And so I look back now, I'm like, well, that's why that happened. Oh, I see. God doesn't want it to happen to us, but for those who love him and are called according to his purpose, he'll work it all out.
Yeah.
You just give it over to him. And that's what I did. I learned, in my mid-20s, finally, just give it to God. I don't want to hold on to this anymore.
And you come out stronger for it.
And you do. It's so true.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
We serve an amazing God. Well, we do have some viewer questions.
Yeah, we should probably get to those.
And so people at home, if you want, follow me on Facebook. Well, follow Into the Multiverse too, but I usually post these on just my personal Facebook page because right now I have more people on there than the Into the Multiverse one. So follow me on there. Every once in a while when we have a guest, we'll do some viewer questions and stuff, and I'll post it without any warning because I usually don't know ahead of time.
That's how you roll.
It's just how it is. But yeah, so this is amazing because this is now the second time that we've done this, and the first time was with Gary Bates, and I mean it was instantly within 20 minutes. There were dozens of them.
30 questions in like 10
same
minutes.
thing. I just said, hey, we're going to talk to Tim. You know, if you got some questions, post them below. And there are dozens. We're not going to be able to get to all of these, unfortunately. But
I know. My phone kept on vibrating over there when I was working, and I was like, well, there we go. There's another one.
we can at least get to a couple.
Sure.
And thank you for doing this, by the way.
Well,
I'm sure the people watching at home appreciate it. So we'll just go first come, first served. Tyrone asks, do you believe that Pope Francis is indeed the last pope spoken of in prophecy, or shall we expect another? Additionally, do you believe that Trump's presidency has spiritual and highly prophetic significance? The Pope and Trump.
I don't know if this is the last pope or not. I don't believe it is, but for a number of reasons, which we don't have to get into, but
well, we can.
But what I do know is that what occurred when this pope was elected was a Jesuit coup at the Vatican, and it has to do. It's very much tied to the pedophilia scandal,
right,
and the gay lobby within the Vatican, what they call the Pink Pope. So it was a coup. So this is definitely an unprecedented situation within the Church of Rome, in that you have a Jesuit pope, and not only a Jesuit pope who subscribes to liberation theology, and who is Marxist leaning, sympathetic to Islam. And so all of these things combined are very, you might say, apocalyptic. And he could be the last pope. I don't know. But I tend to think he's not.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
But again, there's reasons. But the important thing is for people to understand how unprecedented this pope is.
Yeah.
This was a Jesuit coup within the Vatican, using the leverage of a pedophilia scandal, forcing the other pope to resign. And people need to understand that there is a very strong gay lobby inside of the Vatican. And when I say gay lobby, it's also associated with a satanic lobby and pedophilia. In fact, I think that the hub of that wheel, that international wheel of pedophilia that's becoming more and more exposed every day, I think the hub of it is actually the Vatican. And there's a lot of reasons why Rome is the hub for a lot of this, for a lot of the weird stuff going on. I shouldn't say weird; that's a poor choice of words. For a lot of the scandalous,
right.
A lot of the scandalous type things that have to do with history, artifacts, but also pedophilia. It's a very old institution, the oldest.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sick stuff. What do you think about Trump and the prophecy?
Trump's election is extremely significant.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's prophetic, but it's significant. Donald Trump represents. He doesn't stand alone. He's not just representing himself. What he's representing is the voice of pretty much half of this country.
Yeah.
Disillusioned with the politics of Washington, D.C., disillusioned with the mainstream media. There's a conservative surge happening, and it's evident on YouTube.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Big time.
There's a lot of conservatism is, as Alex Jones likes to say, is the new countercultural movement. It's surging, and Google and the mainstream media, George Soros, are doing everything they can to silence the conservative voices.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was kicked off of YouTube.
Right,
you lost
like
your whole
that,
channel.
just overnight, no explanation, nothing.
Yeah.
Just totally.
That was
shut down.
shortly after you did a video about Trump too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. But I don't understand why they would kick me off for that, since there's lots of people who've done videos about
Probably
Trump.
just because it said Trump in it, and they thought you're small enough that maybe you couldn't afford it. Because you think a lot of these big channels that of popular conservatives like Steven Crowder or Ben Shapiro or Gavin McInnes, a lot of people we watch.
We watch them all the time.
And as much as Google and YouTube, they try to shut these people down. Well, they also have lawyers and things, which helps. But they put up a video, and I mean, it'll get hundreds of thousands, millions of views, like every single one. Conservatism, I think, is becoming cool again.
It is, and right after YouTube started shutting down the conservative side and everything, we started losing our revenue from AdSense from YouTube, and we went from,
we took a big hit, and thank God for this job, because before working here, we were surviving on our YouTube revenue basically,
and my business, and I was a manager at McDonald's, and I was almost going to get another job again on top of it because it was not enough to survive.
Back then, we wouldn't have been able to afford that hit because that was before my surgery, and I was on disability, so I physically couldn't go to work. And so I was doing the YouTube thing, and we weren't thriving. We were barely making it, but it was enough that we could support ourselves.
We could actually get food for our kids.
Yeah.
So it was good that we could support them.
Yeah, and then after we got the job here, YouTube, that was it was only a couple months. What was it?
Almost a year.
I thought it was like a few months. But anyway, that was when YouTube really started cracking down. And now, I mean, I have 25,000 subscribers on my channel, which it's been stagnant for like a year now. It really should be double that by now if it was growing the way it was.
I know, but you made $80 of AdSense from
and they didn't send it because you need a $100 threshold. But yeah, they didn't even bother to send it.
But the amount of pushback coming from the conservative side because of the liberal side, trying to silence everything, is just insane. All of a sudden, there's this voice that we haven't heard from in a very long time, saying, no, you're not going to do this to us.
Yeah.
And this is why. And then, of course, but they shine the light on everybody who is doing the poor me. Look at me, I want to be...
Well, they look silly now.
Yeah, I know, and it just looks ridiculous.
We shall prevail.
Yeah, that's right. So, moving on to the next question.
So, yes, Trump's presidency is significant. I'm not sure if it's prophetic, but it certainly is significant.
I agree. I agree with that. Next question is from Matt. What do you believe is going on in Antarctica, and why are there so many powerful people going there?
The ice covering Antarctica is concealing a very ancient culture. Mm-hmm. And I believe that there is perhaps a non-human race operating beneath the ice in Antarctica. I know that the Nazis had a conclave there. I don't know what became of it. Nobody does. But every indication is that there is something extremely significant, historically speaking, beneath the ice of Antarctica. And we've heard different things. Steve talks a lot about this, and I talked to Steve concerning the people who he's in contact with that work down in Antarctica and that are leaking information to him. And it seems that there is contact has been made with something, with somebody.
Wow.
With some kind of a civilization or something that's existent beneath the ice of Antarctica. When I say beneath the ice, I don't mean living in an igloo,
right?
But rather that that there's an underground, there's underground cities beneath Antarctica, and certainly the ice is covering over what would probably be easily the most magnificent archaeological artifacts on Earth,
right?
If they weren't covered over in ice, and I think there's a reason why Antarctica is covered with ice.
Sure. You hear even from Indian tribes in the States or other places of the world, they talk about underground cities, people or beings coming up from tunnels or the caves, saying that they live underground. Adding on to Antarctica, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But do you think, and I'll probably kind of add a little bit here. A long time ago, I had this strange dream about Antarctica. I had never thought of anything about it or anything before that, but I just had a strange dream about it. I was in a library with my family, and there was an opening in the ground of this library, and we all went down this ladder that was there, and there we were walking through these tunnels, and then it came up through what is Antarctica. And the snow and the ice was melting away, and you saw these ruins of old cities and things like that. Now, I don't know if it's any significance of what is going on there today, but along with something that maybe these non-human entities, do you think before that there might have been a race of people that could have lived there? Like
Yes.
the writing looked Greek to me.
Yes, I do believe that there was an Atlantean type civilization existent in what is now Antarctica, and it might be providential that it's frozen over with ice. There may be several reasons for that. Obviously, it's in the southern hemisphere and way down in the South Pole, and so, but certainly, when you talk about underground caverns and underground access over into Antarctica, just in the legends of the Shinkana, the underground tunnel system, the caverns and the cities that are legend to exist under the Andes Mountains, are said to run for thousands of miles in every direction, including towards Antarctica. And I am absolutely convinced, for other reasons as well, besides what we know about the Shinkana, that there is direct access to Antarctica through the tunnel system in South America, to what's underneath Antarctica. And again, there's reasons why we believe that, but there's no question, none, that Antarctica, there's something there.
Yeah.
And it's not just about global warming or something like that.
Right.
We're talking, every indication is that either A, there's magnificent evidence of an advanced ancient civilization, or B, that civilization is still there under the ground.
That's very cool.
That's really interesting, yeah. Jennifer asks, and then probably after this we'll have to shut it down. But, Jennifer asks, what are your thoughts? And actually, I'll keep the rest of these questions for people at home, because we're going to have you back for another episode that will play later, probably sometime in January, and we can do another one of these if you're up for it.
Sure.
Jennifer asks, what are your thoughts on giants moving stones at Baalbek and Shoria? Do you think they could have been moved / placed via harmonics?
Yeah, I think that very possibly sonic levitation was used in the maneuvering of those stones. I don't know for sure. Maybe different techniques were employed in different parts of the earth. Did giants actually lift the stones and place them? I think that that's one of the possible contingencies. It doesn't have to be one or the other. I think giants were involved. I think harmonic or sonic levitation was perhaps involved. I think that perhaps maybe mammoths were involved in certain kinds of situations. In some cases, giants would have been the builders. In other cases, perhaps, what about the offspring of Cain? What about the offspring of Seth? I don't know. I do know that human beings were much more intelligent and stronger, far more robust than we are, far more capable than we are. Contrary to popular conception, they were our superiors in every way,
Yeah.
And so we can't forget that they were probably very capable of things that we would consider great feats today in our society in terms of intellectual feats and processing mathematical equations and this sort of thing. So there's, unfortunately with me, you're always going to get, my answer is always going to be complex because everything,
well, that's how it should be.
Everything is complex.
Yeah,
There's no black and white answer. It's not just giants. It's not just sonic levitation. It's not just whatever other contingency might exist. It's probably an interplay between all of these things because you have more than one dynamic happening in the world before the flood. You have giants, you have the watchers themselves, you have the offspring of watchers and animals, you have the very robust genetic line of Adam, very close to the source. Many of these personalities were alive, or I should say Adam was still alive during the lives of many of these personalities of his offspring. And they had the knowledge of the watchers. And I'm not saying that the offspring of Seth were engaged with the watchers. I think for the most part they weren't. I think they were following Enoch. But the knowledge of and there is certain knowledge that came from the watchers, but then there's other knowledge I believe that was given to mankind by God. For his benefit, certain things. So, and it's hard to parse what's what because that knowledge was largely lost to us in the flood.
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell who was involved in doing what. You can't look at a stone wall, for example, a megalithic wall, and deduce from your simple observation whether or not the builders were good or evil.
Right. I mean, you can even just think about our culture today. If you look at, a building in New York, 100 years from now or 1,000 years from now, how would they be able to tell stuff like that, the morality of the builders?
They can infer perhaps how it was built, and they can certainly infer the level of knowledge and technology it would have required to build it.
Sure.
But we can't ascribe maleficence or benevolence to a stone wall.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't know who the builders were. We know that they were in many cases pre-flood, and we know that they were in some cases, and perhaps all cases, it was a result of the knowledge of the Watchers, giants, other things, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is very complex, and actually, that's a good plug if people are interested in more of the complexities of these types of questions. Check out the Reductionist Worldview episode that we did. That was another extended feature that we did with Tim Alberino. Well, we are all out of time. We'll have to do this again soon. There are some big changes coming up to Into the Multiverse that we have not yet discussed, but we will. Also, episode 100 is coming up in just a few weeks. You'll want to make sure to be here for that. Well, Tim, thank you again for coming on the show. This has been a blast, always is, and it's good to know more about your past. This was really interesting.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Anytime. And, of course, thank you for being on with us again.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you, Josh, for giving me the greatest experience of my life.
Oh, anytime. That is exactly what I am here for. That's why we do this show, to give Tim the best experience of his life. And all of you, thank you for joining us yet again into the Multiverse. Until next time, take care and God bless.
3 very mysterious shiny lights have police and residents puzzled.
This pilot who flew Barack Obama says UFOs are real, and he's seen one firsthand.
The triangular-shaped flashing object appears to be floating above the capital city.
So this large disc, massive, it was following you.
It was pacing us. Here's this giant red ball just above the clouds.
Unbelievable.
Oh, it was.
4 different species, at least, had been visiting this planet for thousands of years.
For the first time in history, the disturbing truth behind the push for official disclosure of extraterrestrial intelligence and UFOs has been uncovered. For years, religious and secular researchers have tried to determine how the world would react to a genuine extraterrestrial reality. But what if their conclusions are wrong? Humankind has defined them as devilish creatures. Yet something even more diabolical is occurring. What if there's a difference between ancient demonic phenomena and the question of extraterrestrial life? It was hinted at in the WikiLeaks.
People really want to know what the government knows.
I have said I want to open the files as much as we can.
A reality that lurks in the shadows that will soon come to light. A truth so shocking, it threatens the destiny of every soul on planet Earth. You must ask yourself, why now suddenly is seeking to answer the question of UFOs life-threatening?
This is another investigator who is getting very close to information on official disclosure that's now been found dead.
I've talked to a lot of pilots here, and they've all admitted that they've seen UFOs, but they kind of keep quiet about it.
The government discounts every single report that ever seems to come out, every UFO report.
I'm about the only person willing to get in front of a camera and talk about the UFOs that were flying overhead.
Promises of earth-shattering news are being quietly whispered by scientists and government insiders. Is something about to happen that was prophesied in the Holy Bible? This November, internationally acclaimed best-selling authors Josh Peck and Derek P. Gilbert peel back the lid on an astonishing cover-up and expose on a most insidious deception. In The Day the Earth Stands Still, unmasking the old gods behind ETs, UFOs, and the official disclosure movement. Coming November 2017.
The holidays are rapidly approaching, and now's your chance to save big on the largest Skywatch TV giveaway of the year. We're proud to announce the Day the Earth Stands Still Ultimate Collection. When you purchase The Day the Earth Stands Still from Skywatch TV, you'll also receive Josh Peck's most significant work in the new compilation book, Unraveling the Multiverse. Also back in print through Defender Publishing for the first time ever, Dr. Michael Heiser's breakthrough books, The Facade and The Portent. But we're just getting started. You'll also receive the brand new, top secret 5-volume DVD collection, Project Stargate. This unprecedented series of never-before-released confidential interviews features 12 of the world's leading authorities on UFOs, so-called aliens, gods, and the coming day of contact. You'll be amazed as we go behind the scenes to ask experts what they really believe is coming. Watch as men with security clearances like Dr. Chuck Missler share for the first time what they know. Then take notes as Dr. Michael Heiser, the late Chris Putnam, Russ Dizdar, Joe Jordan, L.A. Marzulli, Daryl Sims, Gary Stearman, and others weigh in on what will soon cause the world to stand still in awe. And yet, we're still not finished. You'll also receive Dr. Thomas Horn's presentation, The Secret Vatican and Alien Antichrist Connection on DVD, the digitally re-released legendary 20-hour audio series, Official Disclosure, the DVD presentation, Quantum Physics in Prophecy, and 2 free brand new gift books to add to your library or to give away as gifts this holiday season. Sold separately, this colossal special offer holds a retail value of over $300, but it's yours now for a very limited time at only $39.99 plus shipping and handling. So don't delay. This avalanche of holiday gifts is perfect for the serious researcher in your life, but is only available while supplies last. So take advantage of this, the largest Skywatch TV giveaway of 2017, while you can when you purchase the Day the Earth Stands Still Ultimate Collection, now at the Skywatch TV store. Order online or call 1-844-750-4985.